Before I even start to talk about Lufia, it kind of goes without saying I can't talk about this series without throwing in some story spoilers, so I'm assuming if you're watching this, you've already played the games, but it's still a heads up. So let's get into Lufia. In the pantheon of 1990s RPGs, where franchises like Final Fantasy and Chrono Trigger commanded the spotlight, there existed a quieter, more modest contender, the Lufia series. It may not have reached the same commercial heights as its contemporaries, but Lufia carved out a special place in the hearts of those who played it. The series was a treasure trove of heartfelt stories, challenging gameplay, and unique mechanics that set it apart. Revisiting Lufia is like opening a time capsule filled with bittersweet memories and the thrill of discovery. Released in '93 for the Super Nintendo, Lufia and the Fortress of Doom captured the imagination of RPG fans with its heartfelt storytelling, memorable characters, and classic gameplay. While it never reached the same fame or commercial success or even recognition as its counterparts, the game remained a beloved cornerstone of the Lufia series. It was a quintessential 90s JRPG, simple on the surface, yes, but deeply engaging for those willing to immerse themselves in its world. What made Lufia and the Fortress of Doom stand out immediately was its unique opening. The game begins with an epic prologue. Players take control of the legendary heroes Maxim, Salon, Artea, and Guy, or as the French call him, Guy, as they face the Sinistrals, who are godlike beings who threaten to destroy the world. This final battle, complete with its climactic showdown and the hero's bittersweet sacrifice, set the stage for the main story, a tale of duty, loss, and redemption. And again, this was just the opening section of the game. Jumping ahead 100 years, players assume the role of a new protagonist, a descendant of Maxim known only as the Hero. His peaceful life is upended when the Sinistrals mysteriously return, threatening the world once again. The story unfolds as the hero sets out to gather allies and uncover the truth about the Sinistrals' revival. The characters of Lufia and the Fortress of Doom are simple yet endearing, embodying the charm of classic JRPGs. Hero, who is the person you control, he is a silent protagonist, a young knight with ties to Maxim's legacy. His journey is one of self-discovery as he gradually embraces his role as the world's savior. But he's not Jesus. Lufia is a mysterious woman with a sharp tongue and a kind heart. Lufia serves as both the hero's childhood friend and love interest. Her secret connection to the Sinistrals adds a layer of tragedy and intrigue to the story. Aguro, a gruff but loyal warrior who provides much of the team's muscle, his pragmatism contrasts with the more idealistic hero and Lufia, rounding out the group dynamics. And then there's Jaren, a half-elf with powerful magic. Jaren is a gentle soul who serves as the party's healer. Her unique heritage makes her an outsider, but she finds belonging among her newfound friends. While the dialogue is relatively simple, the relationships between the characters shine through. The bond between the hero and Lufia is particularly poignant, capturing the innocence of young love against the backdrop of a world in peril. As a traditional turn-based RPG, Lufia and the Fortress of Doom embraced the conventions of its time. Players explored towns, dungeons, and an expansive overworld, battling monsters and solving puzzles along the way. The combat system, while not groundbreaking, was solid enough and satisfying, emphasizing strategy through careful use of magic equipment and party formations. Nothing new to see here. The game's atmosphere was another standout element. Pixel art, though simple by today's standards, brought the world to life with vibrant towns, ominous dungeons, and picturesque landscapes. The soundtrack, composed by Yasunori Shiono, remains a highlight of the game for me personally, and I'm sure lots of other Lufia fans, with tracks like the battle theme and field theme evoking both excitement and nostalgia. At its core, Lufia, I'm just going to call it Lufia 1, At its core, Lufia 1 is about legacy. It's a story that spans generations, tying the fate of its characters to those who came before them. This theme resonates deeply, creating an emotional connection that elevates the game beyond its gameplay mechanics. The final act, where the hero confronts the Sinistrals in their floating fortress, is a fitting culmination of the journey. The revelations about Lufia's true identity, her ultimate sacrifice, left players with a mix of triumph and heartbreak, which is a hallmark of the Lufia series. Though overshadowed by flashier titles of its time, Lufia and the Fortress of Doom holds a special place in the hearts of those who played it. It's a reminder of a simpler era of gaming, where stories were told with sincerity, and every adventure felt like a personal quest. To revisit Lufia is to step back into a world where saving the day wasn't just about defeating the bad guys. It was about friendship, sacrifice, and the enduring hope that even the smallest heroes could make a difference. In the golden age of 16-bit gaming, few RPGs left as lasting an impression as Lufia 2, Rise of the Sinistrals. Released in 1995 for the Super Nintendo. God, what a great time it was to be alive. This prequel to Lufia and the Fortress of Doom, again, it was a prequel, elevated the series to legendary status. With its unique gameplay, unforgettable characters, and emotionally charged narrative, Lufia 2 became a cult classic, forever etched in the hearts of fans. At the heart of the game was Maxim, a humble monster hunter drawn into a conflict far greater than himself. His journey began as a personal quest, but evolved into a world-saving mission when he learned of the Sinistrals, the godlike beings intent on dominating humanity. Maxim was a departure from the stoic, archetypal RPG heroes of the era. He was grounded, driven by love and duty, rather than just blind destiny. Salon, the skilled and fiercely loyal warrior who became Maxim's partner and eventual wife, added depth to the story. The relationship blossomed naturally over the course of the game, culminating in a rare portrayal of family life within an RPG. It wasn't just about battles and heroics. It was about the sacrifices made for love and the bonds forged in the face of insurmountable odds. Joining them were, of course, a very colorful cast of companions like Guy, the brawny yet good-hearted fighter, and Artea, an elf whose wisdom and magical prowess rounded out the team. Each character brought their own unique quirks, strengths, and vulnerabilities, creating a group dynamic that felt alive and relatable. Lufia 2 was more than just its characters, though. There was actually a lot of innovation in the game. Its dungeons were a standout feature filled with puzzles that required logic, timing, and creativity to solve. From moving blocks and activating switches to navigating treacherous trap-filled chambers, the game demanded more than just simple combat skills. These puzzles weren't just distractions, though. They were integral to the experience, setting Lufia 2 apart from its genre peers. And you have to remember, this is 1995, so yes, these types of things are obviously way more common and actually expected in video games, but this was a time when Bill Clinton and cigars were like 2 peas in a Lewinsky, so yeah, times were a little bit different back then. Times were a little more simple. The battle system also introduced unique elements, such as the capsule monster mechanic. Players could recruit and evolve these companions, adding a layer of strategy and personalization to the game. But as with all great JRPGs, what truly made Lufia 2 special was its narrative. The story wasn't just a grand tale of good versus evil, although that was in there. It was deeply personal. Maxim and Salon's relationship was a central theme, which was a rarity in the games of the time. Their love and eventual sacrifice added an emotional weight to the story that few games could rival. The finale, where Maxim and Salon confront the Sinistrals at the cost of their lives, was a masterstroke of storytelling. It tied directly into the prologue of Lufia in the Fortress of Doom, giving this series a sense of tragic inevitability, which I hate tragic inevitability. I think that's why I love Titanic so much. Fans were left with a bittersweet appreciation for the heroes' sacrifices, knowing that their legacy endured even as their lives were cut short. Even decades later, Lufia 2 remains a shining example of what made 16-bit RPG era so special. It combined gameplay innovation with heartfelt storytelling, creating an experience that was as challenging as it was emotionally resonant. The music, again composed by Yasunori Shiono, perfectly captured the game's mood, from the hopeful overworld themes to the tension of the Sinistral battles. And going over and listening to the OST for both games again, I forgot how good and memorable and classic some of these tracks were. For those who grew up playing it, Lufia 2 is more than a game. It's a memory, and that is definitely true for me. A reminder of a time when RPGs weren't afraid to take risks, tell heartfelt stories, and leave players with something to think about long after the credits rolled. Maxim, Salon, and their companions may have faced a bittersweet fate, but their journey remains a testament to the enduring magic of classic gaming. Now, that wasn't all with the Lufia series. The later entries in the Lufia series saw significant experimentation, though not all of it resonated with fans, as it was actually kind of shunned in a way. Lufia: The Legend Returns, which was a 2001 Game Boy Color game, brought the franchise to handhelds. While it retained the series' core themes, it introduced a unique grid-based battle system. Its procedurally generated dungeons lacked the meticulous design that made Lufia 2's puzzles so memorable. The simplified narrative structure, while still engaging, didn't reach the emotional highs of its predecessors either. The biggest departure came with Lufia: Curse of the Sinistrals, which was a 2010 game for the Nintendo DS, and this was a reimagining of Lufia 2. This entry shifted the series from turn-based battles to an action RPG format. While it did retain the spirit of Maxim's story, longtime fans were pretty divided. Some appreciated the fresh approach, while others lamented the loss of the intricate puzzles and strategic combat that defined the original. Personally, I'm not a big fan of Curse of the Sinistrals. I just think, I don't know. I understand that time period, there was a lot of risk-taking, maybe. I don't know how to put it. I just think they kind of touched something that should have been left alone, I guess is the way I would put it.
Don't touch it.
I wasn't going to touch it.
No, don't touch it.
I was just pointing at it.
Well, don't point even.
Don't even point?
No, it can't be played. Never. I mean,
Can I look at it?
No, you've seen enough of that.
The Lufia series is defined by its ability to balance grand, world-saving quests with deeply personal stakes. The looming presence of the Sinistrals served as the backdrop for stories about love, friendship, and sacrifice. Maxim, Salon, and their companions weren't just heroes. They were actual people with hopes and fears and relationships that made their journey resonate. The series also excelled in creating atmosphere, from the quiet villages to the ominous Sinistral fortresses. The world of Lufia felt alive. Its music remains a standout, and it still evokes a flood of memories for those who played the series, encapsulating the mix of danger, determination, and heartbreak that defined the series. Though it's been 25 years since the last Lufia game, the series continues to hold a special place in the hearts of its fans. It represents a time when RPGs were simple, yes, but more profound, relying on storytelling, character development, and creative gameplay to captivate players, not just graphical fidelity. Those who played Lufia, revisiting its world is like reconnecting with an old friend, comforting, familiar, and bittersweet. Whether solving one of Lufia 2's devilish puzzles, or standing shoulder to shoulder with Maxim and Salon in their final battle, the series' magic endures. It's a reminder of an era where every adventure felt personal and every story stayed with you long after you put down the controller. So that's all I got for you this time around. Don't forget to like and sub. It's free and you'll personally make my day probably a lot better, if I'm being honest. Let me know some memories of yours when it comes to Lufia, any of the Lufia games. For me, it wasn't a specific memory really, it's just memories of watching my oldest brother Leo play Lufia. It was his favorite series when it came out, and yeah, he was 10 years older than me, and I was only 6, I think. Yeah, I was only 6 when Lufia 2 came out, because I didn't play the series until a lot later, till I was a little bit older. But yeah, this one, it hits home for me personally because he passed away a little over 3 years ago. I know I mentioned that. And these games, they always remind me of him. So yeah, the music and the graphics and the characters, super duper nostalgic and bittersweet for me. Also, if you saw my post with the Rufio hint, that was also a nod to my brother because he loved Rufio and he kind of looked like Rufio. I'm half Filipino, he's full Filipino. And he would dress us Rufio on Halloween, and also Rufio Lufia. Get it? Rufio Lufia. Yeah, it's a stretch. Anyways, thank you all for watching, and God bless.